Well, when driving around the Sabi Sands and driving around areas like this, you would think that a leopard would be an easy animal to spot. But right in this picture, there is a leopard, I will tell you that. We do have a spotted surprise for all of you. But I challenge anybody to find a leopard in this photograph, or in that frame that we've got now. It took Senzo, I don't know how long, and it was only until I pointed out to him where the leopard is. And it's difficult because of the light that we've got today. It is dark, it is dingy, it is not easy to see at all. But I'm going to ask Senzo to slowly zoom to where that leopard is and give you a tighter sort of angle. No, not there, Senzo. So to go in towards the leopard. No, not there either. But over there we go. Hidden in the branches is the beautiful Thandi. So she is absolutely almost invisible. If it wasn't for her tail dangling, I reckon 9 out of 10 people would drive right past her. It's just her tail that's giving her away, and that one paw that is down. Where she is lying, it is very dark. The camera doesn't give you an idea of just how dark it is inside there. So her foot and her tail are the only thing that actually gave her away and was, well, where we were able to spot her. If it wasn't for that, I think I would have literally driven right past where she was. So pretty cool though that we have found her and that we can spend time with her and that we have signal. There's a joyous occasion, and our cat streak continues, and well, all the big cats have then been seen today, as well as the wild dogs, and hopefully a hyena will be put on camera at some point, and we will complete our big predator, well, list, if you want to call it that. I can't come up with a catchy phrase for it, because you know we've got big cat trifecta, but we don't have a big predator catchy phrase. Maybe all of you can come up with a phrase for all the big predators in one day, and you can do hashtag Safari Live with the phrase that you want us to use when we talk about it. And she is really quite tucked up in there. I'm sure her kill must be in somewhere inside there as well. I believe she does have a kill. I have no idea what the kill is. Can you see it, Senzo? Is that it over there, or is that just the tree? No, I think that's just the tree. That's bits of cambium, I think. Maybe not. Maybe it is. Yes, it is. It dangling over there. The legs falling down. So well done, Senzo. It looks like a diker. Still quite a bit of meat in that general area, so she's going to be feeding for quite some time. I've stopped far away because it seems as though this is going to be one of the better views of her for now. Once we kind of get a little darker and it becomes harder for the camera, I will move closer and reposition myself slightly, but at least we have signal here and we have the ability to see her, and there you can see just how well camouflaged she actually is, and just the tail is what gives her away, and even the tail looks as though it blends in with that tree and as though it actually belongs there, and really you could drive past that every single time. Lily, in terms of spotting leopards, the thing is that I mean, we've been lucky and a lot of them have been lying fairly out in the open, and that makes it quite easy. But I always find with leopards is when I pick them up is just subtle changes in the environment. So you just notice something that is not quite right, or there is a flick of that white tail, or there is, like in this situation, a dangling tail that just doesn't look quite right for the tree. It just doesn't look as though it belongs to the tree that well. Her paw does, but her tail doesn't. And so it's little small things like that that will give them away. But generally, and there are leopards that we've driven right past. Tumba, for example, this morning, I was searching for him where the monkeys were alarm calling. I was looking and looking and looking and looking, couldn't find any sign of him, and I eventually left to go to the wild dogs because they were all over the place at that stage, and we haven't seen dogs for a while. But the next vehicle that came, they drove right where I drove. They drove on my tracks and they found him quite easily. So it just goes to show that sometimes we do miss them as well, and their camouflage is such that they are an animal that you will drive past from time to time. But the biggest thing about here is that we are able to actually off-road, and we are actually able to track, and so we're able to then follow the footprints, and that leads us to them. So that's how we spot a lot of them, is actually by tracking them on foot and finding them that way. So it makes life a lot easier than actually just trying to spot them from distances away, because if she's down in the grass, you won't spot her in light like this. It is really too dark, and even now she's slowly but surely melting into that bush because of the darkness that she's in, and that the tightness of the crown of that tree is causing a very shadowed area, which means that it is incredibly dark. Even the camera itself is starting to struggle, and that's when you know it is quite dark. So I'll put a bit of light on for Senzo just to help him so that he doesn't have to have too much darkness in there. Of course, we will put on our IR lights just now so that we can stick with her, and hopefully we will have her at least feeding at some stage. If she comes down to feed, the carcass is in an area where we should be able to view her quite nicely and see her quite nicely feeding, so we'll wait for her to come down. If she doesn't come down, well, it'll be okay. We'll still at least have her, and it's good to see one of our females again. We've had such a pleasant time with the 2 boys, but great that we have Thandi, and she's going to be here for, I would say, probably another day. There's enough on that carcass to keep her here for a day, but it shows most certainly that she is now leaving Tumba, because the fact that she's got a kill and she hasn't gone off to go and fetch him means that she's now gotten to the point where she's basically rejecting him and leaving him on his own, and no longer going to support him in feeding him. So it goes to show that for now, I think little Tumba is on his own, and the period that he had with his mom is coming to an end, because a leopard, when she's still looking after a cub, will never ever put a carcass in a tree like this and not go and fetch the cub. She would have gone back and fetched him, and we know that there's very few tracks for a leopard anywhere near Tumba that is for a female, and so it means that she's really not spending much time with him anymore, and this process of rejecting him and pushing him out to become independent has well and truly started. And so little Tumba, I'm afraid you're going to start having to be on your own for a bit. Kimmy, you say for our phrase competition, I think I get this right, a cavalcade of carnivores. Is that right, Lou? Have I said that right? I think I said that right. And that's actually quite cool. I quite like that. I quite like that name. It's got a nice roll off the tongue. So yes, maybe we can use that. Maybe let's see if we've got any others, and then we can decide. We'll ask Lou and Megan to help decide with all of it. But I like that one. That one's quite cool. James, a predator palooza. That's also quite cool. It's quite fun. I like that as well. Like I say, we're going to leave this one up to Lou and Megan, the directors, since they're the bosses of the game anyway. They kind of dictate what we do, and so they're going to have to be the deciding vote, the 2 ladies in FC. We don't give them much of a say normally, but today they're going to get to say as to exactly which one they want to use from now on. But I like both of those. I think those are both quite cool. So it's really nice to have, and it's crazy to think that we are coming up with names like this, because, you know, we were talking about it the other day, and a few months ago we were, you know, saying we would be joyful if we had one of the cats, and to have days now frequently where we're having all of them plus wild dogs plus hyena, it really is quite ridiculous that we have had this amount of sort of luck. And it just goes to show that when Mara and Sabi Sands are together, it really is an amazing amount of animals that are spread between the 2 locations, and they fit hand in hand with animals here that we can't quite see in the Mara and animals in the Mara that we don't really see here. It really does work very well together. So it's such a joy to see them. And I was going through photos of the sightings that Brent and Taylor had this morning, and they just had the most ridiculous sightings. Brent's little lion cubs were so cute, and well, Taylor's cheetah hunt was also something quite phenomenal. So, and as it sounds like this afternoon, it's just continuing on from where they left off this morning. So it seems to be having a wonderful time that side of the world. One of us wasn't out this morning and didn't partake in our predator fiesta that we had this morning, and she is out this afternoon and is more than making up with it with her beautiful lions. Well, we're still sitting here with Thandi, and can you believe it, it's starting to rain, so we had to quickly put all our rain covers on. It's not a hard rain just yet, it's a soft, drizzly, wet kind of rain that's just going to make everything damp and eventually start dripping, and it's not very pleasant in this cold weather, I must be honest. So hopefully it doesn't get any heavier. If it got any heavier, it's not going to be very pleasant at all out here. But at this stage, everything is covered up, so we're good to go, and Thandi is completely unperturbed by the rain. You can see her tail is still kind of flapping in the breeze, and she's passed out as much as possible with a big full belly. You can see that round belly that is hanging down between the boughs of that tree. So she's got a nice big belly and a very unladylike pose at this stage. So you can see her paws and the tail is moving quite a bit because of the wind that is blowing. Right, so Lou and Megan have decided that the winner is Kimmy with the cavalcade of carnivores, so that's how we shall refer to days like today in the future. There we go. So that's how it's going to go. Cavalcade of carnivores is what we will try and seek out as much as possible in the next bit with the Mara. Obviously the Mara will help with that quite a bit, and they provide a lot of the spotted characters in terms of the cheetah, and well, lions for them seems to be a lot easier than what we have with our lions here, and we've had all the luck with the leopards and the wild dogs, so that's okay. It's a nice combination between the two. But I can tell you one thing is that as much as Thandi might be happy up in her tree, it is really becoming quite foul out here at the moment. It's the rain that I'm watching coming past me it's quite funny. It's actually coming horizontally, not vertically down. The wind is blowing so hard that the rain literally is just pounding down from a horizontal angle. It's very unpleasant, and I once again made a rookie error this afternoon, because I saw it kind of brightening up before we left, and it was not too bad outside, so I thought I'll go with shorts again. Failure of note. I've now had a situation where I'm absolutely freezing and my legs are being pelted with rain, and it's just really not gone well at all. And the lack of a door means it's going to be a nice long ride home and a nice wet ride home, so interesting journey back to camp. But there you can see paws that have done many a kilometer or a mile. They've been up and down the Sabi sands and have traveled some serious distance through life, so those paws have certainly done a lot. You can imagine in her 10 or 11 years of existence has really done a lot of movement, and a lot of trees have been climbed, I would imagine, with those paws. And so she's really done a lot. Now hopefully, like I say, she is going to move, and she's going to reposition herself and come down the tree towards the carcass, because the carcass is much lower down, and if we go a little bit lower we'll actually see her feeding quite nicely. If she doesn't move, well, later we will try and get towards the carcass, so you can just see her legs of the carcass there hanging down, and so if she doesn't, we'll reposition a little bit later and try and actually see the carcass itself. But you can see the legs dangling in the breeze, and the complete different shape of an antelope's legs as opposed to a predator's, with that hoof and the very narrow leg that allows them to be able to position themselves, or to be able to run with speed and turn and be quite light, but they don't have the power because they don't have to actually pull things down with those legs. James, you say chances of seeing rhino are quite slim, well, especially now it's gotten a little dark, but 6 out of the magnificent 7 in one day really isn't bad at all. And I suppose if we could show rhinos on Djuma, we would have been able to maybe pull that off today, given that there were some that we actually passed on our travels during the day today. So we would have had all of the 7 if we think about it that way. Let's be on the positive side of this life rather than on the negative side. So in 24 hours we have managed to see the magnificent 7 plus even hyenas as well. So now these guys are busy talking about it and talking about this kill, and they're saying that there's no kill, but the guys haven't looked at the base of the, well, in the tree itself. Yeah, the kill's in the tree, Jamie and Holly, right here next to her. So the guys are not able to see the kill at all, but the kill is right here, as I was just pointing out to them. So she does have her kill up the tree, which is fantastic news, because once it's up the tree, it means things like hyenas are not going to be able to rob her, and we're going to be able to have a situation to see her for the next few days rather than them sort of eating it and then her disappearing from the area. Right, now I'm going to sit and try and shelter from this cold wind and rain and try and probably hide myself under the rain covers like most of Rusty. And while we do that, I believe Jamie is out and about. I think she's still with the lions at the moment. I would imagine so, given that I think both her and Taylor's lions are fairly hungry. So let's go back to her and see what they're up to and whether they're stalking in the darkness of the Mara.